Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In early January 2025, Los Angeles was hit by another devastating wildfire that killed at least 10 people and destroyed nearly 10,000 buildings. Background and causes: unusual weather conditions with strong, dry Santa Ana winds exacerbated the spread of the fire. Prolonged drought and high temperatures created an ideal environment for the fire to grow rapidly. Although the exact cause of the fire is still under investigation, a combination of natural factors and human activity are often the main triggers. Impact and damage. The fires burned more than 13,750 hectares of land, reducing entire neighborhoods to ash. The Pacific Palisades area between Santa Monica and Malibu on the west side of the city, and Eden on the east near Pasadena, suffered the most damage. In addition to the loss of life, thousands of people were displaced, and economic losses were estimated at $135 to $150 billion, around 150 trillion rupiah, $2,186 to $2,429 trillion. Government response and response efforts. President Joe Biden declared a major disaster and pledged that the federal government would cover 100% of the recovery costs for the next 180 days, including debris removal, hazardous materials, temporary shelters, and first responder salaries. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass expressed her commitment to rebuilding the city aggressively, despite facing criticism for her handling of the disaster. Challenges in fighting the fires. Efforts to contain the fires have faced a number of obstacles, including high winds that have accelerated the spread of the fires and a lack of water at hydrants that has hampered firefighters' response. In addition, several areas have experienced power outages, adding to the difficulties for residents and rescuers. Social and health impacts. Thick smoke from the fires has caused poor air quality, increasing the risk of respiratory problems for residents. Local authorities have issued bans on tools such as leaf blowers to prevent further air contamination. Additionally, there have been reports of looting in some affected areas, with at least 20 people arrested for alleged looting. Impact on future events. The fires also raised concerns about Los Angeles' preparations to host the 2028 Olympic Games. Several planned venues for the event, such as the Riviera Golf Club and the University of California, are threatened by fire. Although the Olympics are still years away, the impact of the fires highlights the need for better prevention and planning to ensure the safety and smooth running of the international event. Reflection and hope. The 2025 Los Angeles wildfires reaffirm the ongoing threat of these natural disasters to the city and its residents. Collaborative efforts are needed between governments, communities, and individuals to improve preparedness, response, and mitigation for future wildfires. Additionally, climate change, which contributes to the intensity and frequency of wildfires, must be a major focus of environmental and sustainable development policies. The blue skies, usually bathed in the glittering California sun, were now cloaked in thick smoke, turning blood red. The sound of sirens wailed incessantly, interspersed with desperate cries from residents struggling to escape one of the largest wildfires in the city's history. Amid the chaos, Aiden, a firefighter with 15 years of service, stood staring at the towering wall of flames before him. The hot Santa Ana winds blew fiercely, as if breathing life into the ferocious fire. Within minutes, the buildings around where he stood crumbled into ashes. "It's impossible for us to control this," shouted Aiden's colleague, his face drenched in sweat and dust. But it wasn't just the fire that left Aiden in awe. In the distance, he saw a majestic white building standing tall, surrounded by a sea of fire, the Nur Iman Mosque. The structure seemed to glow amidst the dark, smoke-covered sky, untouched by even a lick of flame. "Look at that!" Aiden exclaimed, his voice trembling as he pointed to the mosque. His colleagues paused for a moment. What they saw defied logic. Every building around the mosque had been reduced to rubble, including the community center just a few meters away. Yet the mosque stood firm, as if protected by an unseen force. Inside the mosque, Imam Sheikh Ahmad and a few congregants were deeply engrossed in prayer. Thick smoke had begun enveloping the area around the mosque since morning, and they knew the fire could engulf their sanctuary at any moment. Yet instead of panicking, they chose to bow before Allah, seeking His protection. Allah is the ultimate protector, Sheikh Ahmad said calmly to the anxious congregants. If we place our trust in Him, nothing can harm us without His permission. Outside, the fire crept closer, consuming everything in its path. Some congregants, unable to evacuate in time, could only surrender to fate. But from the mosque's windows, they witnessed something extraordinary. When the fire reached the mosque grounds, the wind suddenly swirled in a strange way, forming an invisible barrier around the building. The flames never touched the mosque's walls. Elsewhere in the city, Maria, a local journalist, heard bizarre reports about a mosque that had survived in the midst of the inferno. Maria was not one to believe in mystical phenomena, but her curiosity drove her to investigate. "I need to see it for myself," she muttered, adjusting her camera as she headed toward the location. When Maria arrived, she was stunned. The mosque was completely intact. Even the white paint on its walls remained pristine, a stark contrast to the blackened ashes covering the surrounding ground. She approached one of the firefighters. "What happened here?" she asked. The firefighter shook his head, glancing at the mosque. "I don't know. We saw the fire stop, as if something was blocking it. I've been doing this job for years, but I've never seen anything like this." Maria switched on her camera, beginning to document the miracle. Through her lens, she realized that the story of this white mosque wasn't just about a fire. It was about something much greater, about faith, prayer, and an invisible force that defied logic. Maria couldn't stop thinking about the extraordinary sight she had just witnessed. That night, she sat in her car, replaying the video of the white mosque that remained intact amidst the devastation. In the footage, the mosque seemed to glow, standing in stark contrast to the blackened landscape and ruins surrounding it. "Is this just a coincidence?" she murmured, trying to find a logical explanation. As a journalist who prioritized facts, Maria was used to uncovering the truth. But this time, what she had witnessed felt beyond human comprehension. Determined to uncover more, she resolved to return to the mosque the next morning to gather first-hand accounts from the witnesses. The following morning, Maria arrived at the mosque, now the center of attention. Local residents, firefighters, and journalists from various outlets had gathered in its courtyard. In front of the crowd, Imam Sheikh Ahmad stood calmly, recounting the events. "When the fire came, all we could do was surrender to Allah. We had no fire extinguishers, no help, just prayer. We continued reciting verses from the Quran, seeking protection from the Almighty," Sheikh Ahmad said, his voice soft but filled with conviction. Maria approached one of the congregants, who still seemed awestruck. His name was Karim, a volunteer who regularly assisted with activities at the mosque. "We thought it was the end. The smoke was so thick, the fire so close, but somehow the fire stopped at the mosque's courtyard. It was as if there was an invisible wall protecting us," Karim explained. Maria carefully noted down every word, but her mind swirled with questions. How is this possible? What really happened here? Meanwhile, Aiden, the firefighter who had been the first to witness the mosque's miraculous survival, couldn't shake the memory either. After his shift, he visited the mosque, hoping to speak directly with those who had been there. "This is the first time I've ever felt small," Aiden admitted to Sheikh Ahmad when they met inside the mosque. "I've always believed in science, in logical explanations. But this can't be explained." Sheikh Ahmad smiled gently. "Sometimes Allah's power transcends human logic. Perhaps this is His way of reminding us that there's something greater than ourselves." Aiden nodded, still grappling with the Imam's words. He looked around the mosque, taking in its details, the white dome towering above, the pristine walls without a single stain, and the neatly arranged Qurans on the shelves. It all looked as though untouched, despite the raging inferno that had engulfed the area. But it wasn't just those at the mosque who were affected by this event. News of the White Mosque surviving the flames spread quickly, even reaching international audiences. Major media outlets began covering the miracle, dubbing it a light in the darkness. On social media platforms, photos and videos of the mosque went viral. Many praised the event as a sign of God's power, while others questioned how such a phenomenon could occur. Discussions about the White Mosque grew, drawing attention from believers and skeptics alike. That evening, Maria sat in the mosque's courtyard with a few congregants who remained awake, sharing stories of what they had felt during the fire. She sensed something shifting within her, as if the mosque's miracle had opened a door to a world she had never understood before. To me, this mosque is a reminder that there's something greater than what we can see or touch, an elderly congregant said in a raspy voice. Maria looked at the white mosque once more. Its dome reflected the moonlight, radiating a sense of peace that was hard to describe. For the first time in her life, Maria felt that perhaps there were things that could never be fully explained by logic alone. Where there is the fire of destruction, there Allah can ignite the light of hope.